Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. And today we've got people from around the world visiting us today. We're going to talk about sales and offer you practical advice that you can implement immediately that would allow you to get more sales. And the end result of that is you're making a customer happy because you're solving a problem. Before we get started, let's do a quick intro to the show. The No Limit Selling Podcast, where mindset meets sales and leadership. All right, everyone. First, I'd like to welcome Lyandsay. Lyandsay, where in the world are you? And why don't you give us like a 30-second who is Lyandsay introduction?
Would love to. Thanks, Umar. I'm Lyandsay Dowd. I am the Chief Heartbeat Officer and founder of my company, Heartbeat for Hire. I'm a speaker, a founder, a coach, and a podcast host and an author. And I focus on building really great sales leaders and creating incredible sales culture that drives results. And I have a long 25-year history in corporate America. 23 of those years were leading big teams at IBM. And I'm calling in from Boston.
Superb. Welcome.
Thanks.
Talia, tell us about you. You're in India.
Yes. I'm from India and I'm honored to be on the show, Umar. So I have total 20 years experience in B2B sales, industrial automation, aerospace and defense industries where I worked all these years. So I work as a sales director in Cruise, it's a French-based company. Also, I am a podcast host for Sell I Her, where we bring a lot of women sales leaders, talk about their sales journeys, their success, the challenges. And also I written a book called Cumulative Selling. Also, I have a community where we build women in sales in India.
Yeah. Superb. Welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm in a small town called Sevierville, Tennessee, which is in the Great Smoky Mountains. So Dolly Parton's town's right next to us, so most people know it for that. I've been a business coach, I think all my life, but I spent 35 years in corporate America, so I got a little more gray than Lyandsay does. But the last 21 years, I would say at the C level. So I reported to the CEO or presidents of the organizations I was a part of, always on the senior vice president of sales or titles like that, ran large sales teams. And I'm also an author of 8 books as well. So I think it keeps your mind healthy. I think Lyandsay would agree to challenge yourself for things like that as well.
Absolutely. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So sales, plus or minus, we've got getting a face-to-face meeting or a Zoom meeting, that face-to-face contact with the client. It's doing the presentation, is handling the objections, is closing the account, and then it's like deepening into the account of getting referrals. So let's take a look at the first element of how to get appointments. And what I'd like to do is play a game. And Talia, we're going to start with you. What's a piece of advice you could give on how people could get an appointment with their desired target audience? Like, what's one tip we could implement today?
How I start is like we have the success stories in the industry where you are into. So if you can give an appointment, I can show a small demo as well as some application notes where you will get an idea where we sold similar industry and what kind of benefits people are getting by using our products.
Cool. Mark, how do you get in the door?
Well, I think there's 2 things a salesperson needs to do. Have something to offer, but earn trust and credibility. I guess that's maybe 3 things. And so, I really, when I work with teams, is what do we have to offer and really know who we're speaking to? And then quickly, how do we build what I call 2-way accountability, that we earn credibility and trust with that client very quickly, whether they take a meeting or not, is we're there to offer them help. We believe our product's good, but the 2-way accountability is, I would say, Omar, one of the best things that I'd like to do is for us to have frank conversations. It's real important. Certainly, I'd like us to partner, but I need you to have the ability to push back on me anytime, and I would ask the same of you. And anytime that if we schedule a meeting or a call, I'll be prepared. I would ask you to do the same. So there's a way to start building trust and credibility where they're like, you know what, this person's pretty, there goes my voice. This person's pretty professional and, opens the door. Finally, to be solutions oriented. Let's talk about, It's like, let's talk about your solution, understand their perspective. So, those are the keys to me.
Superb. Lyandsay, what practical advice would you give to get that first conversation started?
I start even more simply, and I use something called Show Me You Know Me. And Show Me You Know Me is essentially doing your homework on whoever it is you're going to be talking to. Check them out on LinkedIn, see where they're posting, see who they're following, see who you have mutual connections with, and figure out what are they interested in, what makes them get out of bed in the morning, and send that first outreach with some tidbit of your research. So if you know they went to University of Colorado at Boulder, you'd say, oh my God, how are you feeling about, Neon Dion being the coach now? You must be so excited. Making it personal, giving yourself that edge that you did your homework. And I will tell you, when I get pitch slapped all the time. And pitch slapping is when people don't do their homework and they sell you something right out the gate. It's a massive turnoff. I hate it. But when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I listened to your podcast. I love that episode with Sam Horn. What an incredible woman. And you did such a great job with her. Well, oh my gosh, you listened to me. You did your homework. You spent some time on my show. Now I want to talk to you. I want to know who you are. And when you start that way and you build that human connection, the rest comes easy. The trust, the conversations, and all of that. But then I have a whole next step. And that's, again, non-traditional.
We're going to get to that really soon. So my piece of advice is this. One of the critical pieces of information you need is to get their mobile number.
Yep.
And one of the ways to do that, there is a service called True People Search in the US. You can put anybody's name in the US in it. They're going to give you their address and their mobile phone number. And getting that increases your chances of having a conversation. But before we go back to you, Thalia, for your next tip on how to get that first appointment, let's have a quick conversation with our sponsor. If you're ready to let go of anxiety, let go of uncertainty, let go of doubt, Mindset Boosters gives you the ability to decide how you act and feel in any situation. Ready to take charge of your mindset? Go to mindsetboosters.com. So one of the things I did yesterday, that's my product, and it teaches salespeople and everybody else how to get a stronger mindset and overcome issues. Yesterday, we released that for free. So always free, always will be. And the goal is to get 10 million people to get a stronger mindset. And that's my mission in life. So Thalia, what's another piece of advice on how to get that first appointment? Because if you don't have that first appointment, you're never going to close if you don't get that conversation. So what's something practical people can use to get someone to say, yes, I want to talk to you?
So first I'll go through the company profile because it's mainly B2B sales. So I go through their website and see what are all the missions they manufacture and where our products goes, what kind of outcome they get by using the product, like if they can compact their missions or they can increase their productivity or they can reduce their manpower. So such informations I prepare first. Then during the call I would say, like, this is what this is going to bring. It's not that selling the features, selling the benefits, what they are going to get. So that way, first, if I call, it's mainly the reception. Then we connect to the design team. So the design team, however, whatever the language is so important, what language we talk to them according to their terminologies, using some words and giving them, these are all the products we have and this benefits is going to bring you if you are going to use it. So if you can show a little time so that we can prepare well to come with you to show the demo, because we have a kind of a product selling. What we do, it has an integrated drive. That's something USP what we have, which do not have, others do not have. So we start with USP and we start with the benefits. That's how we get the appointments.
Okay, excellent. Mark, round two.
Well, first, let me, Lyandsay, I loved your answer on the first one. I couldn't agree with you more about finding out about them. I do that with job interviews where I want to see that people researched us, right? And I want to utilize that technique where I told someone, you know what, I really like what your business does in the community. And they were like, really? And then we spoke about that. I slow my salespeople up. There's quick selling and there's long-term relationship selling, and I take pride that a lot of salespeople I trained are still in the business after 20 years, as well. So there's a habit number 5 of 7 habits of highly effective people. Seek first to understand, then be understood is exactly written that way because human nature teaches us we want to be understood first. And so instead of being quick to let me just tell you about our features, advantages, benefits, is let me find out about you. Tell me a little bit. I certainly understand you make cars, but tell me exactly what your organization does. Even if the title tells us everything, what challenges does that bring? Who would be your competitors in the industry? And really have those conversations. But with that, you got to have very good listening skills. It's what we call active listening. So I would sit by salespeople all day long and say, I want you to listen to me without thinking what you want to say next and rephrase what I said and ask if there's anything else that I missed. And then once you start listening good, you start asking better questions. Well, Omar, I see that I believe this is what you're telling me. Am I correct? Or is there anything else I missed? And then Omar, I noticed you mentioned these 2 things as well. Why are those important? Can you expand on that more? So that's just all part of the process. And I'm sure Lyandsay will hit this out of the park as well.
Yeah, and before we go to Lyandsay, just tying the 2 thoughts together, I think when you call someone, if you have a hypothesis of what's going on in their world, what their problems might be, and you have a guess of 2 or 3 of those, and very much, hey, a lot of our clients are saying they got, these kinds of problems, anything like that happening for you. And I like the listening part. The other part to add to it is when you actively listen, you can listen for those pauses and hesitations.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they carry more weight than what they tell you. It's like, it sounds like you hesitated for a second, Mark. What's happening there? And they go, oh, then they reveal what's going on. So brilliant. So Lyandsay, take us home and close out this round.
Sure.
What's one piece of advice to land an appointment?
Again, I think it comes back to really humanizing who you're speaking with. And there's one thing, I have a workshop called the Sell Me Your Story workshop. And I really understood how important this was, especially when I started my podcast. When you ask someone, tell me your story, that they can tell you who they are in a couple of minutes. It's in a way that is going to make you very, very interesting. But I love to ask this question of a potential client. So tell me your story. Where'd you come from? How'd you get here? Not even related to the sale I'm trying to make. I just want to know who they are. First of all, you're going to have new information that's going to make you be able to relate to them in a personal way that you didn't have before. But ideally, they're going to turn that back on you and say, tell me your story. And one of the things that I love to teach is when you talk about the worst thing that ever happened to you, ideally, it's in a career situation, but it might not be. It could be a near-death experience. It could be something else. And you don't talk about the car crash as much. You're really focused on the growth. What did you do post-horrible event? How did you learn from it? And what happens is you're looked at an entirely different way, and you've just elevated yourself from a rep to a relationship.
Yeah.
And so taking that personal connection that you've made will make everything else easy, and it will make them want to introduce you to other people, and they're going to talk about you in a way they don't talk about other reps. And likely wherever you're selling, there's a crap ton of competition. You need to set yourself apart. You need to really make yourself memorable. So being able to do that and starting with them, chef's kiss.
Love it. And what's kind of interesting is I look for extreme relationships or extreme situations to understand what's going on. And the most extreme relationship that I know is husbands and wives. No, that's not it. What's really extreme is the relationship between torturer and victim. Happens in the armed forces. And what we teach our soldiers is if you get in a position where you're being tortured, your life depends on seeing the humanity in the torturer.
Right.
As soon as you see the human in that person, they see the human in you, and they can't be as cruel as they were before. And torturers are taught, don't see that person as a human, see them as a thing. And so I think I love your advice, Lyandsay, that tell me your story makes that person reveal. But a little bit more, and when you reveal, it just builds that trust, which is the foundation of our business. So landing the first appointment, my last piece of advice on that is this, is that when you want to reach out to somebody, just what you said, Lyandsay, is really figuring out what their presence is, what their thoughts are on that social media, what they're posting. But the other place to look is what's happening for the company.
Yep.
Figure out the CEO has said that we're expanding into Tennessee, and Lyandsay is in charge of HR. So Lyandsay, your CEO said that you guys are expanding into Tennessee. How's that going to impact your role?
Mm.
Oh my God, I have to hire 50 people in the next 2 months.
Yep.
And opens up that conversations. One, I figured out what was going on.
Yep.
And one of the ways to figure out that data outside of social media and their website is to go to the Edgar report. And that's a filing that public companies do once a quarter to say what's happening in their world. And you'll find a ton of great information that lets you get insights into their company. So round 2, we're going to start with Lyandsay first. Handling objections, Lyandsay. What's a good way to handle an objection?
Well, objections are funny because sometimes people are knee-jerking to something that they're anticipating, and it's not even actually what you said. They just think, "Oh no, I'm not allowed to do this. I'm gonna stay
just
away
looking.
from this topic."
Just looking,
right?
lady. Yeah.
And so, especially if you've been sold to a lot and you've heard it before, they're going to be arms crossed, like, "Oh, this ought to be good." So they're already coming from a defensive position. And that's why when you can take that personal moment to really break it down, you've changed the tone of the entire meeting. Your objections are going to be different once you've done that, because all of a sudden you're a human. You're not just a rep anymore. And so they'll be like, okay, you do have some experience. I don't really think that you guys can do this. It's a very different tone than, no, you didn't listen and I don't want that. Which we've all heard. But you have to sit there and say, okay, explain. Tell me why. Tell me more. What about this doesn't align with your goals? And do I have a good understanding of what your goals are? You should have done your homework. That's one of the questions you need to ask post Tell Me Your Story. But when you understand their goals, then you can say, okay, if I understand your goals correctly, this should support that. Do you see that? And they might say no, and you have to explain further, but they might say yes. And again, the more human you can make the conversation, the harder it is to deliver those objections in a really tough way. If you're gonna get them. In sales, you always do. So making sure that you can deliver those in a way that they understand how it aligns to their goals is going to be really important.
Nice. Mark.
Well, in fact, mine kind of even works with that as well. Just I might explain it in a different way. But the first thing is, if we know, sometimes salespeople try to shy away from the objections. Like, I hope they don't ask this, but there are some common ones that come up. And so I always taught my salespeople, bring it up, brag the objection, right? Brag it. So it could be, hey, Omar, certainly you can see that, we're a little higher than our competitors, but let me tell you. And so I would be proactive and brag about it and learn how to overcome it that way. The thing I love about what Lyandsay says, because it works with emotional intelligence, which I teach a lot of, and that seek first to understand ties into habits and emotional intelligence, that your belief drives your attitude, which drives your behaviors. So if you have an objection, you can say, well, can I ask you, what are you seeing that drives your perspective? And then I'm like, because when you're asking them, what are you seeing? What have you experienced? So those type of things, like Lyandsay said, you're actually getting back to the belief system. That's where the power is. And that's where, people, there's 2 words that you're creating: genuine and authentic. And so, we say it in different ways, but it's, and most people are used to people that want to tell you their perspective first. I've never had anyone said, when I'm like, oh, Mark, if you can, expand on your perspective for me. And then, well, can you go a little deeper? What is it that you're seeing that believes that might be the case? And then, well, Omar, can I share with you my perspective now? And so I've never had anyone say no. It's just when you want to race in and tell your perspective without asking about theirs first, that you'll get the hesitancy.
Reciprocity, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Thalia, how do you handle objections, or how do you train people to handle objections?
So I talk about 4 A's here. 4A to handle the objections. First one is active listening. We have to listen what they say, because when they throw the objections, we should not be reactive. So we just first listen, active listening, and acknowledge. Like, we have to acknowledge, yes, I understand that there is an issue. I understand that you face such price issue, or quality issue, whatever, acknowledge. Then third one is ask questions. The more we ask questions, we understand better what are the objections, whether the objections are real or fake.
Hmm.
The fourth A is analyze. Because when you analyze, whether he's really showing the objections or he just want to avoid placing an order on you. uh, for example, he says, okay, price is an issue, okay, because of that I do not want to place an order. But when we say, okay, right now I'm going to give you the price, will you place an order immediately? If you're placing an order, I'll be giving the price. If we say, yes, I will give the order to you if you confirm it now, that means it's a real objection. If we say, okay, even if you give the price, but I want this terms, I want that, so that means it is a fake objections. So
Hmm.
this way we will be able to analyze and judge whether the objections are real or he's just trying to drag the process.
Right. So, there are no surprises. Whatever industry you're in, you're going to get the same objections all the freaking time. And no matter which industry you're in, you're going to get price as an issue. We already have a vendor we're happy with. I'm too busy to talk to you right now. Talk to my assistant or one or two extra, right? And one of the ways to counteract it very much is a client success story. Oh, Lyandsay was so busy putting out fires, she didn't have time to use our service, but she did it anyway. And now she's our biggest fan because it's freed up time for her and they're more profitable. And that's exactly why, Mark, we should be moving forward with you. And oftentimes, that's like an ancient way of handling an objection. Feel, felt, found is like, I'm not sure how old that is, but it's older than me, I'm pretty certain. And the other thing I like about it is very much one of your peers, Thalia, had the same concern and they overcame it. And that really helps as well. So it does two things, is very much I hear you and hear someone that felt the same way, but move forward anyway, and great success. So let's start with you, Mark, first. In going for the close, how do you go for the close?
Well, I mean, like you said, it's going to be different by industry a little bit based, but we have, what I call a decision tree is, let me make sure I understand who you are as a customer. Let me make sure the situations, right? And that's why many times I think that sometimes the first thing we say is, here, let's back away from the solution because I want to make sure that I understand everything correctly. So we go through all that process. That decision-making tree helps trims it down to say, now, is there anything else that I missed? And then great. And if you ask in the right selection, the customer closes themselves. If one thing that helped me tremendously was early in my career, I was a turnaround specialist. So I would take over businesses that were having problems. And with that is a lot of customer complaints. And so I would take all customer complaints. If you learn how to overcome customer complaints, it's emotional intelligence, it's listening, it's all those. And, I think one thing that you just said there, one of the best customer complaints I had is when I asked, what does Holt Aggregate do? That was the name of the company. They explained, I'm like, oh, so who would your competitors be? And they said, HP Zachary. And when I was able to say, oh, well, they do business with us. So understanding who they are, and then they would say, well, what does HP Zachary do? So sometimes too, that's where Lyandsay said, understanding who their competitors are. Sometimes you can, in a professional way, bring that in as well. But it's really not racing to the close, but following the process, taking a step back from the solution when you need to, when they're like, no, I'm not ready to move forward yet. So that's where let's step away from the solution and then let's find out what is the hesitation there.
All right, excellent. Thalia, how do you
Yeah.
close?
So for me, the closing happens, it starts from the beginning of the sales process, according to me. The closing stage is like it's mainly the remaining 50% is what we close. Half close must have already done during the sales process, like the way you respond, the way you build the relationship, and the way the trust is built with the customer. Then the half part is already closed. And in the end, it's mainly the negotiation plays an important role, because it is always win-win. Customer always wants to have certain discounts, have certain negotiations. None of the closing will happen without negotiation. So that's something you need to be prepared. What kind of a price game or terms and conditions game you can uh, do with your customers when you talk about the closing. It's always win-win, and telling what solutions you're going to put across and what benefits they are going to get. And that's how the closing happens. So be prepared, prepare well before the closing. What kind of objections he's going to raise, what kind of negotiation he may give. Accordingly, if you prepare, then the closing will happen easily.
Lyandsay.
I mean, to me, the whole sales process is reiterating goals. So let me just make sure I understand your goals. Okay, this is what we're driving towards. So if I did my job right, this is going to answer this goal. This will give you the things you need to look good, to measure success, to show up the best way possible. Have I done that? And ideally, you've done a really good job because you knew them, you understood their goals, and you were demonstrating that the entire way. The close should feel really natural.
Nice. So one of the things I like to do is nobody buys anything unless there's a problem that's being solved.
Yep.
So they got a manufacturing problem or a pricing problem or whatever the problem is. So during the process, as we gather information and say, so what's going on, Mark? Like you're saying you're not able to find the right sales reps, and it's your turnover is every 3 months. So how's that impacting you? And Mark goes, oh my God, it's keeping me up at night. And each time we train a rep, it costs $20,000. And when they walk out of the door, we lose $20,000. Oh, what else is going on? The CEO thinks I'm an idiot. Well, how much is that costing you? So during that process, when I go for the close, it's like just summarizing. It's like, Lyandsay, if I understand this right, you said that it costs you $20,000 per rep, and you have 12 reps that leave every year. So that's $120,000 problem, right? Yep, that was your numbers. The CEO thinks that you're not doing a good job. What's that? What's the impact of that? So just summarize all the problems and the financial impact that they mentioned during the process. And it's like, well, it sounds like you got a $2 million problem. What would you like to do, Lyandsay? And then at that point, they're like, because a lot of people don't realize they know the individual pieces, but you as a salesperson, when you put them all together and go, this is a big, scary issue that you need to solve now, usually is, so my one is summarize and just go, what would you like to do? So before we part company today, Mark, we're going to let you go first again.
Of course, right.
So 2 quick things. One, what's something you want to share with the sales world that would be useful for them that we didn't ask on this program? And 2, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I mean, the sales role is just be so open-minded to learn every day, right? I mean, I'm a values-driven person. So, and if you looked at my website, humility is the first value that I put forward. I always say the day I stop learning is the day I die. So hopefully I learn every day. So just be so open that you're not the greatest salesperson. I learn every day. People can get a hold of me at my website, markvillarreal.com, or on LinkedIn as well. It shares my phone number and email there as well. So.
Superb. Lyandsay.
Oh, I mean, you can find me at my website, heartbeatforhire.com. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. So, and I'm on all the socials. You can find me there. Come listen to my podcast. We've got all kinds of brilliant people talking about their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture, all with a sales mindset. And then really in closing, it's all about the heart, being a heart-centered leader. And I say leader, whether you're an individual contributor or you are a leader. When you are leading with your heart and you are thinking that way, you will stay vulnerable, you will stay authentic, you will have a much more fulfilling life in your job, whatever it is, when you make those human connections. Really does make a difference.
And just adding one more thing to what you said, Lyandsay, hard is where the courage is
Agreed.
as well.
Thank you for having me, Umar. I have to drop. I have a client waiting, so I
Okay,
have to
go do that. Go make some money. And Thalia, last piece of advice, and how can people get a hold of you?
See, I want to give advice based on my book, Cumulative Selling. What I've written is RAISE formula, which is R for routines, A for action, I for integrity, S for sales, E for effective mindset. So all this put together, a cumulative results is what success in sales. So my advice is, do not just think that if you're expert in sales, you can go up the ladders. You also have to work upon your daily routines, your integrity, your mindset, and the day-to-day actions. So this is something you work upon all put together, which make you a successful person both in professional as well as your personal life. That's my advice to all the sales professionals. And anyone who want to approach me, like sellaher.com is the website where I post all the sales related blogs, as well as LinkedIn. I keep posting about sales. Thank you so much.
Superb. Thanks, guys, for being on the show. It was went by really quickly. Lots of actionable advice. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And reconnect soon.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay, stay on the line. We'll chat for a few minutes.